All right, welcome back. We are now 4 days away from the debut of the second tour of this DPC season. That's going to be kicking off on March 15th, and so in the meantime, I'm going to be starting things off with a little mini series of previews that I'm going to be doing for each and every region's upper division. Just basically taking a look at all of the teams, and in case you guys missed any of the roster changes in the offseason, giving a brief little update on those. And as I go through the teams, taking a look at their current DPC points, and as well as having a little bit of a discussion about them, some of the things that maybe have plagued them from the last tour, some of the things that they're looking to improve upon in this following tour, or just in general, some really good highlights that we had from some of these teams. Just all that sorts of stuff, and I would really love to hear your guys' opinion on everything I talk about in this video. And once I'm done this like little mini series in which I'm going through these regions in no particular order, I'm going to be getting back to my weekly preview series where on Sundays I preview the next week's matches for the lower division, and then on Mondays I do an upper division preview for the next week, including fantasy picks, which now there seems to be treasures being released for fantasy, so they're actually useful now. So anyways, just thought I'd let you guys know, just in case you forgot that I do those weekly previews. And one more thing before I start, I'm curious if you guys want me to do a power rankings before the start of the second tour, just because I had done my last power rankings after the conclusion of the regional aspect, but I didn't do one after the regional finals, which obviously was a little weird because we only had half of the teams participating, and if I were to do one, then I wouldn't be including the teams that didn't participate. Anyways, I would just love to know what you guys think, and otherwise I'm going to be sticking with my Friday schedule for power rankings once the tour actually starts. So, kicking off with the teams here. Starting off, I put these teams in order in which they placed in their region, specifically the top four in the order in which they placed in those regional finals. Starting things off with Gaming Gladiators, who have a very impressive 430 DPC points already. And if you guys couldn't tell, the red numbers right next to all the teams are their current DPC points. Very fantastic tour for Gaming Gladiators. I mean, these guys were not expected to do nearly this well. They finished second place in the regional portion of the tour, and then of course we had the regional finals because of the cancellation of the first major. And I was really worried for teams like Gaming Gladiators, who had such a fantastic tour, who weren't going to be able to show it at a major. I was worried that maybe that they would start to fall off as the year went on and they wouldn't get another opportunity to show their skills at a major. But with how dominant they played in those regional finals, I would be very surprised if we don't see Gaming Gladiators at the second and third major of the year. They've been playing fantastically. Specifically, Boom had probably his best series I've seen him have, and I've been watching Boom for a very long time. That Storm Spirit IO combo just looked absolutely broken, and not to say that it was completely just the hero combination that was broken. He made it look broken. He was playing it very well, and all around fantastic play from Gaming Gladiators all throughout. Their roster stays the same for this following tour, and for Western Europe in general, not a whole lot of changes whatsoever, at least in the upper division. They're sticking with their roster consisting of Duraccio playing position 1, who has looked pretty good, pretty solid so far. Boom, again, probably one of the MVPs of this team if I had to pick one. Ace, of course, being fantastic as always. We have Tofu and Celery, and Immortal Faith. Yeah, if you guys recognize that name, he makes the guides on Dota 2. He's also been coaching Gaming Gladiators for the past few months, and it's been paying off. They've been doing very well. So very happy to see them do this well. Next up on the list, we have Team Liquid, who also have 430 DPC points. Both of these two teams finishing first and second place in the two portions of the regional, of the Western European region. They finished first place, obviously, in the first portion, and then lost the grand finals to Gaming Gladiators in a very well, hard-fought series. And again, their roster not going through any changes. And for Liquid, I think this was, just like Gaming Gladiators, a fantastic tour for them, where the expectations maybe weren't that high, but I can understand why some people would. They're bringing in players like Matumbaman, like Zai, coming in from Secret, who has been such a dominant force, specifically in the COVID era as well. They've been playing so well, and it really felt like no one could beat them for a long period of time. And the only thing is that even though they were bringing in these big players, they were swapping around a lot of positions. Mickey being brought from the carry position to the mid position, Boxy being moved from 3 to 4, and not only that, but losing players like Koikva and Taiga. It felt like even though they were bringing in all this star power, this could really hinder Liquid's performance, at least for a little while, and it'll take them a while to start to get going again. But that's not what we've seen. And to Liquid's credit, they've always been a team that has been super, super versatile in their roles. Whenever Liquid needed a position, like a stand-in or something, whether that be Sumail, who played mid for them, we had Mikke, who would play in the safe lane, or maybe Koikfa playing in the off lane, and they were always able to switch positions. And I think that's a big reason as to why they were able to have so much success so early on in this tour. And it's just been a fantastic tour for them all around, and I've been really, really happy watching them play. And again, having some members from the X Team Secret is going to give you a lot of help with drafting against some of the other teams in the region, and it really showed. So best of luck to Liquid in the following tour, hoping that they can keep up this momentum, and they got themselves off to a hell of a start with 430 DPC points already. Following that, finishing third place in the regional finals, we have OG, also not going through any changes. And OG, I gotta say, like, the top half of this board completely exceeded expectations for reasons that I've already discussed with a few. But OG, I don't think there was any expectation that this team was gonna go nearly as far as they did. They had a pretty much random stack of 5 players that no one's really ever heard of, a bunch of them really young. Of course, Misha, previously their coach, coming in to play position 5 for them, bringing in Taiga from Liquid, so I guess it's not like a 5 stack of randoms, but you know what I mean. BZM, ATF, and Yuragi, no one had really heard of these players before, and so there was a lot of reason to feel a little bit of doubt about this roster, especially since the XOG was the 2-time champions, and it's that's no easy slot to fill. And yet these guys had the best finish that OG has ever had in a regional portion of this new DPC system so far. The old OG was really struggling to make it into the top 4. But yeah, fantastic play. Yuragi was a real standout right away, other than ATF, who of course had his item and, you know, BMing, all that kind of stuff that was really calling a lot of attention to him. But Yuragi really impressed me, and as the tour went on, I started to notice just how good BZM is. His Kunkka play, his Invoker play in specific, was really, really something to behold. And all around, Taiga still playing as well, if not better than he was on Liquid, and Misha showing that he's still able to have that captaincy role, even though he's not as a coach now. And I'm excited to see where OG goes. They unfortunately only finished with 60 DPC points after this first tour, but as we can tell from some of the other teams on this board, that's a lot better than nothing. So best of luck to OG, and I'm really hoping that they can keep with this momentum, as they have looked pretty damn good so far. Next up, team number four, and this is going to be a weird one. This is Tundra, and of course Tundra going through roster changes fairly recently after kicking Fada from their team, moving Snaking to position 5 to bring in Soxa. This, of course, coming with a slight penalty to their DPC points due to the fact that it costs 15% of your current DPC points to make a roster change consisting of, you know, 1 or 2 players. And so they lose 28 points there. However, it doesn't really affect their standing all that much. 28 isn't the most points ever. But again, this was a change that I don't think a lot of people were expecting, especially with how much success Tundra was garnering throughout their past year, I'd say. And even though it wasn't met with the highest amount of success, it wasn't met with the most successful, the highest peaks, they did have very, very dominant performances, and it was definitely one that couldn't have happened without the help of their captain, Fada. And so to see him get kicked so suddenly was a little odd, and you know, we know now that they kicked him just so that they could bring in Soxa. We'll see how it goes for them. They looked very, very good in the Dubai Invitational. They spoiler alert, they just barely lost in that. They lose to Boom in the grand finals 3-2. Very impressive series, despite the fact that they had just brought in Soxa. And I'm hoping this ends up being a change that helps Tundra more than it hurts them, because I can really feel like if Tundra has a real dip in their performance in the following tour and they finish maybe like 4th or 5th place, maybe even 6th again in this tour, I can see a lot of fans getting upset about the fact that they had kicked Fada so suddenly and didn't really have the results to back it up. So we'll see how this next tour goes for Tundra. Other than that, I think that they've been a really fantastic team. I think that they're maybe a little bit overrated, if you have to ask me. I know that they can play very dominant games. I know that they can take down the best teams in the division, again, very dominantly, but at the same time, they have a lot of games where it really feels like a non-starter. It really feels like they never really starting to get things going at all, and they themselves get stomped. And so with Tundra, it really depends on the day, it feels. And so for that reason, I never really had them all that high on my power rankings, but I'm hoping that changes in this following tour. All right, now taking a look at the bottom half teams, only one of which actually earning themselves DPC points here. That is Team Secret. And Team Secret, opposite to some of these other teams, was expected to do tremendously well. And it makes sense. You look at their roster on paper, and this is a star-studded roster with players that have been having an insane amount of success in the past few years. Starting off with Nisha, Puppy, and Yapsor, who have been on the team for a very long time now. Again, talking about how Secret has been such a dominant force in the past few years, and just in the general career of, general existence of Team Secret. But now you're bringing in players like Sumail, who has just been a talent, who has just been one of the best players of all time throughout this past decade, to play mid. Not only that, but you're bringing in Ice, who has had a real revitalization of his career ever since he joined Evil Geniuses, who was one of the best teams from last year, and he was a big reason as to why that was, because he had such a wide and niche hero pool for the offlane that it really gave Evil Geniuses a large advantage, not only in drafting, but also in certain portions of the game. And it really didn't feel like that. It felt like this should have been amazing. Again, you're bringing on all these star players with the mastermind of Puppy, to bring your strats together, to bring your drafts together. And I think maybe things were a little too weird at first. That first series against OG was absurd, where we had, I believe, Sumail playing as mid Grimstroke and like an offlane Wyvern. It was really strange. And so I'm sure Secret weren't necessarily taking themselves too seriously in this first tour. And I'm sure there will be some improvements for them here. And again, Team Secret isn't necessarily a team that has been known to just like play 100% all the time, especially as of late. Coming into the last TI, they actually had not done very well at all in the last major before, and they had mentioned that it's because they were kind of taking things easy and they were just waiting for TI. So maybe that's what they're doing here in this first tour. We'll have to see, but hopefully they can get themselves more than just 30 DPC points in the next tour. Speaking of a little bit of a disappointing performance as well, we have Nigma Galaxy, who lands themselves a big old goose egg when it comes to DPC points. They are currently sitting at 0, which is the same as the two teams that were in the lower division in the last tour. Again, they started off their tour with 2 rough losses without Miracle, and then Miracle came back and they had yet another rough loss, and it felt like things were really going out of control, and all of a sudden they just turned on a dime. The team looked fantastic, the drafts made sense, Miracle was playing as well as we know he can, the rest of the team was playing as well as we know that they can. All of the ILTW hate started to fizzle away, and then Tiebreaker Day came, and they got absolutely destroyed in every single match. So Team Nigma has had a really, really polarizing past tour. I'm hoping that they can turn things around. Again, they had a pretty impressive showing at the Dubai Invitational. Maybe didn't go as far as they were hoping to, but they had some pretty eccentric strats that I'm sure are going to be destroying a few of your pubs for the next few weeks. The offlane anti-mage for one, but again, Kuroki and the guys, they don't really seem like the ones to be stressing so hard right now. Of course, they want to make it to TI, but I don't think that they're super pressed about this right now. And when they do actually need to play, they'll bring it. And hopefully, it won't end up being too late like it was in the last season, where they just barely missed out on TI 10 because they didn't have enough points, and then they didn't make it through qualifiers. But we'll see. Anyways, best of luck for these guys. And for all the fans of the team, hopefully you guys can stay sane. Now taking a look at the 2 teams coming into the lower division, and I'll do this a little bit quicker because, you know, I don't have as much to say about these 2 teams. I did catch a few of their series in the lower division. Of course, I do my weekly reviews and all that kind of stuff. And Entity is one team that definitely stood out to me as one that I was very excited for when they actually made it to the upper division, because Western Europe's upper division has been pretty cutthroat. We've had so many teams at this point that have come in and just gotten absolutely destroyed. Teams like the Hellbear Smashers come to mind. Cool Guys just recently had that. And there have been a few teams that have come up and sort of kept their head above water. For example, Tundra was a lower division team. Brame is now coming back into the upper division once again. And then we, of course, had there's one other team that's escaping my mind. Gaming Gladiators, previously known as Viking GG. They came in through the lower division, and now they're one of the best in the upper division. So I'm excited to see maybe which one of these teams ends up being the one that goes very far, and which of the 2 ends up being the one that just is a non-starter. And taking a look at their rosters and which ones went through drastic changes recently, we might already have the answer to our question. Starting things off with Entity, they're still running their same stack of Crystallis, Stormstormer, Toby, Suzuya, and Fishman, coached by Metpun, who is not a player or coach that I've heard of before, but either way, they've been doing very, very well. Again, a very impressive showing in the lower division. I'm hoping that they can keep this momentum and continue to the tradition of there being one team that comes in from the lower division and just kind of dominates and owns and makes a real name for themselves, as opposed to Brame. Despite the fact that they qualified for the upper division, they weren't able to hold their roster together. And it kind of leads me to believe that maybe there were some internal problems with the team. You know, the players weren't getting along all that well. There was something wrong with the communication, because even though this team had a lot of success, again, they weren't able to hold the roster together. And so after previously having Nefrit, Wish, and Stominen on their team, they have all since departed. None of them have been picked up by any teams other than Stominen, who is now on the new Alliance, which is, again, a little strange because Brame is now an upper division team and he got picked up by Alliance, who is now a lower division team. Either way, we'll see how they go, but for now, they've picked up Focus, Thug, and Desire to fill the slots. And funny enough, this is now a full Greek roster, so we'll see how they do. Currently, they do not have a coach. They are the only team right now listed in the upper division of Western Europe that does not have a coach, and we'll see how it goes for them. Hopefully, it ends up being a little bit better than the other teams in the past, like Hellbert, Smashers, and Cool Guys. But anyways, you guys can let me know what you think about any of the stuff I talked about in this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Who do you think wins this division? Who do you think gets relegated? And who do you think is going to have the biggest turnaround? Who do you think is going to have the most disappointing season? All that kind of stuff. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys very soon with some more previews just like this, and then we're going to get back into the flow of the tour. Bye.